Some families have a favorite child. Mine didn't just have a favorite. They had a golden child. And then there was me. I don't remember exactly when I realized it. Maybe it was always there, lurking in the corners of my childhood, hiding in the spaces between praise for my brother and silence for me. But looking back, the signs were everywhere, like the time Adam, my older brother, got caught selling drugs in high school. "It's just a phase," my parents had said, shaking their heads with exasperated smiles. "He's going through a rough time." When I got caught smoking weed, they acted like I had burned the house down. My mom was in tears. My dad's face was red with fury. They grounded me for months, took my phone, threatened to transfer me to a private school. "What kind of example are you setting?" my mother had snapped. Example? For who? Adam? The same Adam who walked away from his mess with nothing more than a stern talk and a pat on the back? That was the first time I saw it clearly. Adam could burn the world down and they would hand him a fire blanket. I could light a match and they would call the fire department. At first I thought if I worked hard enough, if I was smart enough, successful enough, good enough, I could change things. That one day, they would look at me with the same pride they had for Adam. But the older I got, the more I realized that day was never coming. Adam dropped out of college. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time my parents shrugged. He's still finding himself. Meanwhile, I pushed myself to the breaking point, juggling school and part-time jobs, pulling all-nighters to meet deadlines. I graduated just 1 semester late, and my parents didn't even come to my ceremony. Adam moved to Colorado, barely worked, and spent his days hiking and playing video games while my parents covered his rent. I got my first real job at 22, and my parents immediately took me off their health insurance. "You're independent now," my mother had said, smiling like it was a compliment. Adam stayed on their insurance until he was 26, 4 extra years of support. 4 extra years of knowing, without question, that if he stumbled, our parents would be there to catch him. I didn't get that luxury. I never did. And yet, no matter how much they gave him, it was never enough. When he ran out of money, they sent him more. When he wanted a dog, a $22,000 imported German Shepherd, they paid for it. And through all of it, my mother would say the same thing. "Adam just needs help right now." As if I had never needed help. As if being strong meant I didn't deserve support. It took me years to understand the unspoken rule in our family. Adam was their son. I was their investment. And when I lost my job in early 2023 and had to move back home, I saw just how deep that difference ran. At first, they welcomed me. "Stay as long as you need," they had said. Then, the moment I got back on my feet, they hit me with a bill $10,000 for rent, for groceries, for existing under their roof. We had never even discussed rent. They had never mentioned it, not once. In all the months I was there, doing freelance work, buying my own food, trying not to be a burden. But now that I had a stable paycheck, now I owed them. And the worst part, I paid them. I drained my savings, worked extra hours, lived on the bare minimum just to get out from under their thumb. And Adam never paid them a dime. That should have been my breaking point. It should have been the moment I walked away for good. But the real moment, the final straw, came months later. It came in the form of a family cruise, a week-long Thanksgiving vacation. My mother was practically glowing as she told me about it. "It's going to be so special," she said. "Adam and Laura are coming too." For a second, I let myself believe this was their way of making things right. And then she smiled at me and said, "Since you have a good job now, you can buy your own ticket." I felt my stomach drop. "You're paying for Adam and Laura," I said slowly, "but not me." My mother barely blinked. "Adam's still finding his way, and Laura's family isn't well off. You can afford it, Sarah. I felt something deep inside me crack. It wasn't about the money. It was about worth, and in my parents' eyes, I had never been worth the effort. That night I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, my hands clenched into fists. Tom found me like that, his brow furrowing with concern. "You okay?" he asked. I shook my head. "They don't want me there, Tom. Not really." Tom sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "You don't have to go," he said simply. For the first time in my life, I agreed. I wasn't going, and my parents were about to find out exactly what that felt like. Growing up, I thought my family was normal. Maybe a little strict, but normal. It took me years to realize that in our house, love wasn't freely given. It had to be earned. At least that's how it was for me. For my brother Adam, love was unconditional. Mistakes? Phases? Failures? He's still finding himself. No matter what, my parents always bailed him out. For me, love came with expectations, pressure, a constant need to prove I was good enough. Maybe I first noticed it in high school. Adam got caught dealing drugs, our parents called it a rough patch. But when I got caught smoking weed, they acted like I'd burned the house down. Adam could set fire to the world, and they'd hand him a fire blanket. I could light a match, and they'd call the fire department. It only got worse over time. Adam dropped out of college 3 times. My parents shrugged. He's still figuring things out. Meanwhile, I worked multiple jobs, took extra shifts, and graduated just 1 semester late. Instead of celebrating, my dad sighed. "You should have tried harder." At 22, I got my first real job as a technical writer. I was proud. When I told my parents, they responded by taking me off their health insurance that same week. "Time to stand on your own," my mom said. Adam, he stayed on their insurance until he was 26. I learned that in our family, fairness wasn't real. In 2023, I lost my job. Rent became impossible, and I had no choice but to move back home. My parents assured me, "Stay as long as you need." That lasted until I found a new job months later. The day I shared my good news, my mom folded her arms. "You owe us $10,000, I blinked. "What?" "For rent," my dad added. I had never agreed to rent. Never once had they mentioned it. Meanwhile, Adam, still unemployed in Colorado, was getting his bills paid for. He even bought a $22,000 dog on their dime. I knew arguing was pointless. I had spent my whole life watching them bend over backward for Adam while I fought for scraps. So I did what I had always done. I swallowed my anger. I worked harder. I saved every penny. By September, I had paid them off, $10,000, just for existing under their roof. When I finally moved in with my boyfriend, Tom, I thought I was free. Then, a few weeks later, my parents announced their grand Thanksgiving plan. "A family cruise," my mom said, beaming. "Adam and Laura are coming too." For a moment, I let myself believe this was their way of making things right. Then my mom smiled at me. "Since you have a good job now, you can buy your own ticket." I felt my stomach drop. "You're paying for everyone else?" I said slowly. "But not me?" "Adam's still finding his way," she said casually. "And Laura's family isn't well off. You can afford it, Sarah." It wasn't about the money. It was about worth. And in my parents' eyes, I had never been worth the effort. The night before the trip, my dad texted me. "Be here by 8 a.m. so we can drive to New Orleans. Don't be late." "No." "Are you excited?" "No." "Can't wait to see you." Just an expectation, an assumption that, as always, I would fall in line. I stared at the message, my chest tight. Then, for the first time ever, I chose myself. "Since you didn't think I was worth the effort to include, I'll be spending Thanksgiving with Tom's family instead. Have a great trip with your favorite child." I muted the group chat. Then I turned off my phone, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. The morning of Thanksgiving, my phone was silent. No texts, no missed calls, nothing. It was eerie, like the calm before a storm. A part of me expected my dad to send one last message, something clipped and direct, like, "You sure about this?" Maybe even an offer to help with gas money if I was struggling, but nothing came. I sat at the kitchen table, wrapping my hands around a steaming mug of coffee. Tom leaned against the counter, watching me. "They text you yet?" he asked. "Of course they did," I muttered. "They're waiting for me to cave." Tom took a slow sip of his own coffee. "You're not going to." I nodded. "I'm not." But even as I said the words, my chest felt tight. Even when you know you're doing the right thing, walking away from family never feels easy. The drive to Tom's parents' cabin in Arkansas was quiet, the kind of stillness that settles when the air is cold and the roads stretch endlessly ahead. Brown and yellow trees blurred past us, their bare branches clawing at the pale sky like bony fingers. I let the silence wrap around me, trying to push away the nagging guilt that sat heavy in my stomach. "You okay?" Tom asked after a while. "I will be," I murmured. I wanted it to be true. I just wasn't sure if it was. We pulled up to the cabin just as the late afternoon sun was sinking behind the hills, casting golden light over the wooden porch. The moment we stepped out of the car, Tom's mother, Linda, appeared on the front steps, waving excitedly. "I'm so glad you're here, Sarah," she called, already making her way down to meet us. Before I could even say a word, she wrapped me in a warm hug, the kind of embrace that wasn't just polite, but genuine, like she actually meant it. "Thank you for having me," I said, smiling despite myself. "Of course," Linda said, squeezing my arm. "We're thrilled to have you." Then, turning to Tom, she added, "Grab her bags and get inside before you both freeze." The cabin smelled like home. The scent of roasting turkey and freshly baked pies filled the air, wrapping around me like a blanket. Laughter echoed from the living room where Tom's younger cousins chased each other around the furniture, their giggles bubbling over like warm cider. His father, Paul, stood at the kitchen counter, carefully basting the turkey. He glanced up when he saw me and grinned. "You made it." Something inside me softened. I couldn't remember the last time I had walked into a family gathering and felt wanted. With a warm smile, Linda handed me a glass of wine. "Your family here, Sarah. Relax and enjoy yourself." It was the simplest thing, but I almost wanted to cry. The next morning, Tom and I woke early to help with the Thanksgiving preparations. Linda and Paul handled the cooking, so she put us in charge of setting the table. The house was alive with warmth, the clatter of dishes, the hum of music from the radio, the sound of cousins arguing over who got to sit where. It was chaos. But the good kind. The kind that made a place feel full instead of heavy. I watched Tom fold napkins into neat little triangles. He caught me staring and smirked. "What?" "Nothing," I said, shaking my head. "It's just nice." He reached over and squeezed my hand. "You deserve this, Sarah." I didn't answer, but I squeezed back. After dinner, we went outside to play cornhole with Tom's cousins. Naturally, I was terrible. My aim was as precise as a blindfolded toddler throwing darts. After missing the board entirely for the third time, Tom burst out laughing and threw an arm around my shoulder. "You're hopeless," he teased. "I'm trying," I laughed. From across the yard, his 12-year-old cousin Ellie piped up. "You're doing great, Sarah. My mom says it's about having fun, not winning." I grinned. "I'll take it." As the sun dipped below the horizon, we gathered around the fire pit, wrapped in blankets, sipping hot cocoa. The flames flickered, casting soft, dancing shadows on the faces around me. Linda passed out marshmallows for roasting, and as I held mine over the fire, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Peace. No one was waiting for me to prove my worth. No one was keeping score. For once, I wasn't fighting for a place at the table. I had one. Toward the end of the night, Linda sat beside me, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Sarah," she said gently, "I know this is ultimately up to Tom, but I hope you'll join our family for real someday." I blinked, caught completely off guard. My cheeks warmed, not just from the fire, but from the weight of her words. My throat tightened. I'd be honored, and I meant it. That night, as I lay in bed next to Tom, staring up at the ceiling, I whispered, "Thank you for bringing me here." Tom turned to face me, his expression soft. "You don't have to thank me, Sarah." He reached out, brushing his fingers over my cheek. "You belong here." His words settled over me like a blanket, sinking into every crack and empty space. For the first time in years, I felt whole. I felt free. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. Tom's family had made the holiday feel effortless. No tension, no judgment, just warmth. I hadn't realized how much I craved that. But reality came crashing down. The moment I turned my phone back on, dozens of missed calls, texts, and voicemails. The group chat was flooded with pictures. My parents, sunburned and smiling. Adam and Laura on the ship's deck, drinks in hand, carefree. Then came the guilt. Trips. Sad that you chose not to be with your family in such a beautiful place. And from my mother, "You should have been there. I hope you realize what you missed out on." I stared at the words, my stomach twisting. What did I miss? More importantly, what did they miss? They didn't miss me. They missed the expectation that I would always fall in line, that I would be the dutiful, responsible daughter while Adam remained the golden child. Tom glanced at my screen and sighed. "Same old story, huh?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. A few minutes later, my phone rang. My mother. I hesitated. A small, stupid part of me still wanted their approval. Still wanted them to understand. I picked up. She didn't even say hello. "Where were you?" Her voice was calm, but edged with accusation. "I told you," I said, forcing my voice steady. "I spent Thanksgiving with Tom's family." "You could have told us sooner," she snapped. "Do you know how cruel it was to let us believe you were coming and then just not show up?" I took a deep breath. "Mom, you told me to buy my own ticket. You didn't make me feel like I was part of the plan." Her tone turned sharp. "We told you that because you can afford it. Adam and Laura needed the help." And there it was. The same excuse. The same justification. I clenched my jaw. "And I didn't need help? I spent my whole life earning everything while you handed Adam everything on a silver platter, and I'm the ungrateful one?" "That's not fair, Sarah," she shot back. "Adam needs help right now. You've always been independent. You don't understand how hard it is for him." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. There it was again. I was strong, so I didn't need support. Adam was weak, so he deserved endless grace. I swallowed hard. "I'm independent because you never gave me a choice." Silence. For the first time, I had caught her off guard, but only for a moment. "I'm not going to apologize for raising a strong daughter," she said coolly. "You should be grateful for everything we've done for you." That word, grateful, for what? For a lifetime of being an afterthought? For being held to impossible standards while Adam was handed everything? I took a slow, measured breath. "I guess I'll just leave you alone then," I said quietly. "Since I'll never be enough for this family anyway." Before she could reply, I hung up, and as soon as I set my phone down, the tears came fast and hard. Tom pulled me into his arms. "You're okay," he murmured. But I wasn't, because no matter how much I wanted to believe I was enough, I knew my parents never would. The next morning, my phone was silent. No missed calls. No texts. Somehow that was worse than their anger. They were waiting for me to apologize, to take it all back, to do what I always did, swallow my pride and make things right. But I wasn't going to. I buried myself in work. forcing a smile when coworkers asked about my Thanksgiving. It was nice, I said. I didn't tell them about the texts. I didn't tell them about the phone call that left me sobbing on the couch. Because deep down, I was ashamed. Ashamed that after everything, I still wanted their approval. That night, Tom and I sat on the balcony, watching the city lights. "I don't know why this is so hard," I murmured. Tom exhaled. "Because they're your parents. You want them to love you the way you deserve." I swallowed. "But what if they never will?" He was quiet for a moment. Then, softly, he said, "Then maybe it's time to stop asking for it." His words hit me like a punch to the gut, because I knew he was right. I had spent my whole life begging for something my parents were never going to give me. Maybe it was time to stop trying. The first time I truly considered cutting contact with my parents, it felt impossible, like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing I needed to jump, but terrified of what waited below. Could I really walk away from them? Could I really live with that choice? For days, the thought sat heavy in my chest, weighing me down like a stone, and then my brother called. I hesitated when I saw Adam's name flash on my phone screen. Adam never called, not unless he wanted something. Tom glanced. Over from the couch. "It's up to you," he said simply. "You don't have to answer." But I did. I had to know. I swiped the screen. "Hello?" Adam's voice was cool, almost clipped. "What the hell happened?" I exhaled slowly. "What do you mean?" "I mean Christmas, Sarah," he snapped. "Mom and Dad were wrecked. They said you just ignored them and ruined the holiday." I closed my eyes. Of course. I took a deep breath. "I didn't ruin anything, Adam. I just chose not to go." He let out a sharp, exasperated breath, the way he always did when he thought I was being difficult. "Why do you have to make everything such a big deal?" There it was, the same dismissiveness, the same refusal to see things for what they were. "Because it is a big deal," I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. "They treat you like you walk on water. They pay your rent. They hand you everything. And yet I'm the one who had to pay them $10,000 just to live in my own house." Adam was silent for a second. Then he sighed. "Jesus, Sarah. Are we really doing this again?" "Yes," I said, my hands shaking. "Because it's real. Because it's my life." "You're just jealous," Adam muttered. "You always have been. That word, that damn word. As if my exhaustion, my anger, my frustration wasn't valid. As if I was just some bitter, petty little sister, throwing a tantrum because I wasn't getting my way. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles ached. "I'm not jealous, Adam," I said quietly. "I'm just tired." Adam let out a humorless laugh. "Maybe if you stopped acting like a victim, they'd treat you differently." I felt like I had been slapped. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. Because that was it, wasn't it? That was the final confirmation I had been dreading. Adam would never see it. He would never understand. Because he had never had to. To him, I was the problem. I was the one making a fuss. I was the one ruining things. And I knew in that moment that nothing I said would ever change his mind. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. "Goodbye, Adam," I said softly. Then, before he could say another word, I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I let him go. That night, I sat on the balcony with Tom, wrapped in a blanket, staring out over the city lights. I had spent my whole life trying to prove myself to my family, trying to be good enough, trying to be wanted, but maybe it was time to stop. "I've been thinking," I murmured. Tom turned to look at me. "About what?" I took a deep breath. "About cutting contact, not completely, not yet, but I think I need some real space." Tom nodded, as if he had been waiting for me to say those words. "I think that's the right move." I feel guilty, I admitted. They're still my family, and if I walk away, they'll tell everyone I'm the problem. Tom reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. Sarah, you can't control what they say about you. You can't change the way they see things, but you don't have to keep putting yourself through this just to make them happy. His words settled over me, heavy and true. For so long, I had been fighting for something that didn't exist. Maybe it was time to choose myself instead. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote a message to my parents. Mom, Dad, I need some space. I love you both, but I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not. I'm tired of being compared to Adam. I'm tired of feeling like I don't matter. I need time to figure out what kind of relationship I want with you, so for now, I need to take a break. I hope you understand. I stared at the words for a long time. Then, finally, I pressed send, and as I set my phone down, I let out a breath I hadn't even realized I was holding. It felt like letting go of a weight I had been carrying my entire life. Tom sat beside me, his hand resting on my knee. How do you feel? I swallowed hard. Scared. Then, after a beat, I added, but also lighter. Tom smiled. That's a good start. And for the first time in my life, I believed him. It's been months since that Thanksgiving. I still get the occasional text from my mother, little guilt trips, little reminders that I'm not playing my part. I don't always respond. Sometimes I almost do. Sometimes the old habits creep back in. The instinct to smooth things over, to be the good daughter, to keep the peace at my own expense. But then I remember the way I felt that night. The way it felt to finally choose myself. The way it felt to sit around a dinner table where love wasn't something I had to earn, and I know I made the right choice. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day my parents will understand. Maybe they won't. But for the first time, I'm not waiting around for that answer. Because for the first time, I am enough, just as I am. And that feels like freedom. Thank you for reading. If you liked this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories like this. And remember, family isn't about obligation. It's about love.